December 24th, 1914. The guns had been roaring for months. The mud of Flanders had swallowed everything: names, uniforms, letters, and hope. The war was young, but it already felt ancient, endless, merciless. Private Thomas Bennett, 21 years old, sat in a shallow trench near Armentières. His hands shook as he tried to light a cigarette. The cold bit through his coat, and his breath turned to mist. Around him, the men of his regiment whispered about rumors of peace. Just for one night. Across no man's land, the German line flickered with candlelight. It was strange, beautiful even. The enemy was singing, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht. The sound drifted through the frozen air, carried on a wind that no longer cared about sides. Thomas lifted his head, listening. The melody was soft, haunting. A hymn from another world. He had heard it before, back home in church with his mother. Then, a voice in English joined in from his side of the trench. One man, then another. Before long, both sides were singing the same song in two different tongues to the same God. The war paused. No orders, no gunfire, just voices, human voices, rising above the mud. Thomas looked up and saw something he would never forget. A German soldier climbing out of the trench, holding up a small tree lit with candles. He was smiling, as if none of this horror had ever happened. For a moment no one moved. Then another man followed. Then another. Soon the first British soldier climbed up too. The officers shouted, but the men ignored them. The war had gone quiet, and no one wanted to wake it. Thomas climbed out, his heart pounding. He walked across the frost-covered earth, stepping over frozen bodies half buried in snow. When he reached the middle, he stopped. The German soldier was standing just a few feet away, shivering but grinning. They looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Then, the German extended his hand. Thomas took it. That handshake broke the war in half, if only for a few hours. More men joined. Cigarettes were shared, photographs shown, words exchanged in broken English and German. "You football?" one German asked, pointing to a tin can. Laughter followed. And just like that, they played. There in no man's land, between barbed wire and death, British and German soldiers kicked around a frozen can under the dim light of stars. No hatred, no politics, just men trying to remember what it felt like to be human. Someone passed around chocolate. Another poured wine from a battered flask. Thomas pulled out a photo of his sweetheart, showing it to the German beside him. The man smiled, then showed his own, his wife and 2 children. For a moment, they were not enemies, but mirrors. The night went on. Carols echoed, fires burned in the open. Laughter replaced the sound of shells. But dawn was coming. As the first light crept over the horizon, the world seemed to hold its breath. Officers called for the men to return to their lines. The truce, as silent and fragile as snow, began to melt. Thomas hesitated. He looked back at the German soldier, the one who had first offered his hand. The man nodded, eyes soft with something like sorrow. They both knew what would come next. Thomas raised his hand in farewell, then turned and walked back toward the British trench. The frost crunched under his boots. Behind him, the German voices faded into silence. Moments later, a single rifle shot broke the morning stillness. Then another. The war had woken up. Thomas ducked down as the sound of gunfire returned. The spell was gone, the miracle over. but something had changed inside him forever. Later that day, Thomas wrote in his journal, "Last night we met the enemy and found ourselves. I cannot explain it, I do not think I ever will, but for one holy night the war stopped, and in that stillness we remembered we were brothers." Years later, when the war ended, Thomas returned home. He never forgot that night. Every Christmas he lit a candle in his window, not for victory, but for the men on the other side of the wire. And somewhere, perhaps in a small town in Germany, another old soldier did the same. Because for one night, in the darkest winter of the Great War, peace was real, and it sang in 2 languages. The Christmas Truce, 1914. A moment of humanity the world still remembers.